I've been feeling overwhelmed lately. Balancing work with chores at home has been tough for me. I know I haven't been as helpful around the house as I could be, but it's not because I'm ignoring my responsibilities. My job has demanded a lot from me these past few months. I understand you're busy too, and it would be great if we could both share the workload at home a bit more. Suggesting we split the chores seemed to upset you more. You questioned how my job could be so demanding, implying that I'm just avoiding my share of the work. This hurt, especially when you concluded that I was not worth your effort and suggested a divorce. It felt like you were making hasty decisions without trying to understand my side or find a middle ground. Your accusation of me not taking work or home duties seriously, even suggesting infidelity, left me stunned. I've been juggling my job and our home as best as I can, but your lack of faith in me and dismissal of my efforts has been disheartening. The moment you mentioned infidelity, I was so shocked and hurt that agreeing to a divorce seemed like the only option left. I had a significant piece of news to share, but it seemed pointless now. Little did I know, this decision would lead to unexpected consequences for you down the line. My name is Mary, and I'm 36, working in the administrative department of a company specializing in industrial machinery. I started as a salesperson but transitioned to a role involving accounting and legal matters 6 years ago. While I missed using my sales skills, this job has allowed me to grow in different areas, which I find rewarding. My career has always been my priority, which meant my personal life, especially my love life, was on hold. I hadn't been in a relationship since college and had accepted the idea of not getting married. That perspective changed 4 years ago when Eric joined my company. He was confident, athletic, and had a youthful appearance despite being slightly younger than me. Initially, my interest in him was purely professional, as I had long moved past the idea of romantic involvement. To me, the most important trait in a person is their capability and efficiency at work. So, when Eric came along, my initial interest was purely professional. "You've been working in sales this whole time, right?" he asked me one day. "Yes, that's correct. If you have any questions or need assistance, I'm here to help," I replied, eager to offer support. Eric appreciated the offer, especially since he was new and still finding his footing. One day, as we were moving some supplies with Eric carrying a heavy box to my desk, he caught me off guard with a compliment. "Mary, you're not just skilled at your job, but you're also kind and beautiful. You must be well liked, right?" His words made me blush. It had been so long since I'd thought of myself in such a personal light, and I fumbled for words, taken aback by his notice. Eric's comment, meant as casual chatter, had unexpectedly reminded me of my femininity, something I hadn't considered in a long time. His follow-up tease about my flustered reaction only made me more embarrassed. I tried to brush it off with a playful rebuke, warning him not to get too comfortable just because he was the newcomer. Despite my awkward attempt to deflect, Eric's laughter suggested he found the whole exchange amusing. This wasn't typical behavior for someone junior in the workplace to a senior, but it sparked something in me I hadn't felt in ages, the stirrings of romantic interest. As time passed, Eric and I grew closer, sharing meals after work and spending weekends together. Eventually, this blossoming friendship turned into a relationship, and 3 years later, we were married. For someone who had nearly resigned themselves to a single life as the 37th birthday approached, this was a monumental change. Yet, this new chapter in my life didn't unfold as happily as I had hoped. Even after marriage, while we worked in separate departments, I could see how Eric managed his work and heard about his reputation through office chatter. "Could you review the client materials for tomorrow?" Eric would ask, dumping his work on me without waiting for a response. "This data is incorrect, and the document structure is all over the place," I'd point out, frustrated with his sloppy work. Despite my protests, Eric would leave his tasks in my hands and rush off, leaving me to clean up his messes. This pattern became a regular occurrence. At work, Eric leaned heavily on me, assuming I'd always be there to cover for his carelessness. His documents were riddled with mistakes, and without my oversight, he'd miss important meetings and deadlines. I had hoped that our professional collaboration might be different from our domestic one, where sharing responsibilities could be more balanced. Instead, I found myself overwhelmed, handling not just the shared duties of our home life, but also compensating for Eric's lapses at work. This dynamic, far from the partnership I had envisioned, was becoming increasingly unsustainable. At our workplace, I wished we could interact purely as colleagues rather than as a married couple. I hoped Eric would take his responsibilities more seriously. However, Neglecting his duties not only reflected poorly on him, but also impacted the company and our clients adversely. Thus, I often found myself setting my tasks aside to correct his mistakes, ensuring our professional environment didn't suffer because of our relationship. One evening, after another day of picking up Eric's slack at work, he left early, leaving me behind to finish up. His apology felt empty, especially when I arrived home late to find him expecting dinner to be prepared for me. This routine had become a stark reminder of his insincerity. Eric, having left the office before me, had not taken the time to contribute to our household, choosing instead to relax. I've tried addressing the imbalance in both our work and home responsibilities multiple times, but it seems my efforts are in vain. Eric's routine apologies, followed by no real change, have exhausted my patience. It's only been 8 months into our marriage, and I'm already feeling overwhelmed by the disparity between our dating days and the reality of our marriage. Part of me blames myself for not recognizing these issues sooner and for enabling his behavior by covering for him at work and silently taking on the majority of household chores. Determined to make a change, I resolved to stop enabling Eric at work. Yet, the following day, I found myself falling back into old habits, assisting him as usual. It wasn't a lack of resolve on my part, but rather a complex mix of feelings and the dynamics of our relationship that made it difficult to enforce boundaries. Unexpectedly, Eric came home one day with news of being transferred to a subsidiary company to bolster their sales team. His salary would remain the same, and the location was within a reasonable commute. Despite the challenges of adapting to a new work environment and the responsibility of improving the subsidiary's sales force, Eric seemed unfazed and even excited about the opportunity. This change meant that Eric would no longer be able to rely on me at work, a shift I quietly welcomed. With him working at a different location, the dynamics of our professional interaction were bound to change, relieving me of the burden of constantly covering for him. After moving to his new role, Eric began to come home late, immersed in his mission to enhance the sales force at the subsidiary. This shift in his behavior was noticeable. He spoke more professionally and seemed to take his responsibilities more seriously. He commented on the need for the company to embrace innovation and break free from the status quo, reflecting a newfound professional maturity. This change, although challenging for Eric, brought a sense of relief to our relationship. With him fully engaged in his new role and no longer dependent on me at work, it offered a chance for our dynamics to reset, potentially leading to a healthier balance between our professional and personal lives. Eric's transition to the subsidiary has sparked newfound confidence in him. He often discusses the challenges and decisions at work, highlighting the president's cautious approach to change. "You might not grasp the complexity," he tells me one day, implying that my role lacks the significance of his. He's convinced that the company's future hinges on bold decisions, aligning with rumors of a leadership change that resonates with his perspective. Within 2 months in his new position, Eric has developed a strong sense of indispensability. While confidence is generally a positive trait, in Eric's case, it borders on overconfidence. His demeanor has shifted from the supportive partner I knew at the parent company to someone who's increasingly self-assured and critical. The change in his attitude becomes evident in our daily interactions. When I mention we've run out of shampoo, his reaction underscores his growing impatience with what he perceives as my lack of efficiency. His comments sting, especially when he compares our workloads, suggesting that my tasks are insignificant compared to his important responsibilities. Eric's criticisms extend to our home life, where he accuses me of slacking off, oblivious to the irony that he often neglected his share of responsibilities. His words are sharp, and for a moment, they halt the rhythm of our dinner. I'm brimming with responses, eager to point out his lapses, but I hold back, planning to address this matter at a more opportune moment. As days pass, Eric's inflated sense of self-importance becomes more pronounced. He revels in the complexity of his role, contrasting it with what he perceives as my straightforward tasks. Despite his condescending attitude, I find a quiet strength and patience, choosing to wait for the right moment to address his behavior. His spending habits have also caught my attention. With new watches and suits, Eric emphasizes the importance of appearances in his role. While I caution him about financial prudence, he dismisses my concerns with a confidence that borders on recklessness, boasting about his salary and the expected increases. In these moments, I see the gap widening between the man I married and the persona he's adopted since his move. His underestimation of me, while frustrating, also fuels my resolve. I plan to confront these issues, not with immediate retorts, but with a strategy that will hopefully lead to a deeper understanding and appreciation of each other's contributions, both at work and at home. Eric's newfound lifestyle, marked by his carefree spending on luxury items and frequent dining out, has left me feeling uneasy. His days are increasingly spent outside the home, often returning late from what he describes as work-related outings or client dinners. Despite his assurances of a growing salary, I worry about the sustainability of his spending, especially since I've had to limit the amount I give him to manage our finances. His late nights and weekend absences justified by work obligations have sown seeds of doubt in my mind, stirring suspicions I can't easily dismiss. I've voiced my concerns, stressing the importance of spending time together as a couple, only to be met with dismissive remarks about the supposed necessity of his late returns for the company's image. Eric's defense often escalates to arguments, with him accusing me of not understanding the significance of his role, despite his known difficulty in keeping secrets. This has led me to question the authenticity of his excuses and whether there might be more to his absences. Our confrontations have grown more frequent, with Eric critiquing my handling of household chores and accusing me of being inefficient at work. Accusations I find ironic coming from him. His criticisms culminate in questioning the rationale behind our marriage, labeling it a mistake. While I acknowledge the strain in our relationship, the suggestion of divorce, especially so early into our marriage, feels rash. I've proposed finding a middle ground, yet Eric seems convinced that any attempt at sharing household responsibilities is futile, viewing it as a sign of my inadequacy. The accusation of an affair was the final straw, leaving me stunned and unable to muster the anger I felt building up. In a moment of disbelief, I agreed to the divorce, seeing no other way to address the absurdity of his claim. This decision, made in a moment of clarity overshadowed by disappointment, marks a turning point. Despite the urge to reveal a significant piece of news to Eric, I've decided it's unnecessary. He'll undoubtedly learn of it in due time. But for now, I'm left to ponder the future, one that's suddenly become far more uncertain. Choosing to stay silent about my plans, I didn't realize how significant this decision would be. Following my separation from Eric, the divorce process was surprisingly smooth, given our marriage had barely lasted a year. I chose to bury those memories, pretending as if that chapter of my life never existed. Reflecting on my eagerness to marry as I approached 37, I regretted letting romantic notions sway me once again. Now returning to my career-focused life, I felt more aligned with my true self. Just when I was hitting my stride at work, a month post-divorce, an unexpected call from Eric momentarily derailed my focus. His panicked voice relayed his confusion about the police wanting to speak with him, a direct result of my actions, or more accurately, the company's. As Eric fumbled over the phone, questioning my involvement, I couldn't help but reveal a significant change in my professional life. In the past month, unbeknownst to him, I had ascended to the role of president at the subsidiary company where he worked. His disbelief and subsequent insults stung, but I remained firm, explaining my qualifications and the responsibilities I had managed over the years. Eric's confusion stemmed from not having seen me at the subsidiary. I clarified that my absence was deliberate, aimed at uncovering his unprofessional conduct without bias. His surprise turned into shock as I explained the reality of his transfer to the subsidiary. Contrary to his belief of being specially chosen for the role, it was a strategic move to sideline him due to his lackluster performance and problematic behavior at the parent company. His tenure at the subsidiary, under the pretense of importance, had led him to underestimate and disrespect his colleagues, mirroring the condescension he had shown me. The revelation that the previous president's departure was due to retirement, not incompetence, and that Eric's work habits had not improved, painted a clear picture of his professional shortcomings. Employees, unaware of our past relationship, had openly expressed their grievances about Eric's arrogance and inefficiency from my very first day as president. This feedback confirmed the need for intervention, underscoring the disconnect between Eric's perception of his value and the reality of his contribution to the company. In navigating these revelations, the divide between Eric's self-assessment and the professional and personal realities we faced became starkly apparent, marking a turning point in both our professional journeys and our understanding of each other's true capabilities and character. Eric, it seems you believed your status granted you free rein to act as you pleased. On my first day, your absence from the morning assembly was notable, and immediately afterward, employees brought to my attention their concerns about your potential embezzlement and rumore d'affaires. Opting for discretion, I initiated an investigation into these allegations, leveraging my knowledge of your routines and banking details. Your predictable patterns, arriving late, leaving just before the day's end, made it easy for me to observe without revealing my presence. Your actions, under the guise of importance, have led to a grave misunderstanding of your standing within the company. The realization that your misconduct, including embezzlement, has come to light, along with police involvement, must be overwhelming. As we spoke, the fading tone of your voice betrayed your shock, especially when confronted with the evidence of your financial misdeeds and extramarital activities. I've uncovered evidence of your scheme to divert company funds through direct cash transactions with clients, a clear violation of our policies. Your affair, particularly with a younger colleague from the accounting department, has only compounded the situation, implicating her as an accomplice in creating fraudulent documents. The sum of your embezzlement, utilized in part for lavish spending with your partner, is substantial. Your silence following these revelations speaks volumes. You must now contend with the reality of facing the police, on top of the moral and legal repercussions of your affair. It's noteworthy that your concern seems fixated on the embezzlement, perhaps underestimating the significance of the affair, caught on camera despite your attempts to remain unseen. Adjusting the camera angles revealed your indiscretions, contrary to your belief in your cautiousness. The police's inquiry, though voluntary, is not something you can afford to ignore without exacerbating your situation. And regarding your mistress, the rumors of her ill health and potential pregnancy could add another layer of complexity to your predicament. Was the urgency of our divorce driven by the revelation of her pregnancy? You're now faced with a cascade of consequences: legal action for embezzlement, fallout from the affair, potential alimony, workplace repercussions, and the implications of a child on the way. During a tense phone call, Eric's distress was palpable, his words a jumbled mess that sent a shiver down my spine. It was clear the time had come to end the conversation. "Do you have anything else to say? I need to get back to work," I said, ready to hang up. In a sudden plea, Eric's voice spiked, his desperation echoing through the line as he begged for my intervention to avoid arrest. Despite the public setting he seemed to be in, his outcry for help overshadowed any embarrassment he might have felt from onlookers' stares. However, his actions were inexcusable, and with that, I resumed my work, leaving him to face the consequences. Eric was later convicted of embezzling $300,000, receiving a 5-year prison sentence, a fate shared by his complicit mistress, who was also confirmed to be pregnant. This turn of events validated my suspicion that our rushed divorce was due to her pregnancy, a situation made even more complex as she faced giving birth in prison, with the child likely to be raised by others during her incarceration. The separation from her newborn and missing those crucial early years would undoubtedly be a profound emotional struggle for her. Upon their release, Eric and his mistress will encounter a harsh reality. Dismissed from their jobs due to criminal activities, they'll step into a job market that is unforgiving for those with a criminal record. I've initiated a lawsuit for civil damages amounting to $380,000, mirroring the sum Eric unjustly demanded from me, intending to add financial injury to their list of woes. Their challenge will be daunting, finding employment while saddled with significant debt and alimony payments, all without any savings left from their extravagant expenditures. In the wake of these events, I've focused on cleansing the company of its toxic elements, leading to a marked improvement in the workplace atmosphere. Employees are now more vibrant and productive, and my commitment to enhancing company performance has never been stronger. My life, once entangled with Eric's misdeeds, has now returned to a path of professional dedication and personal satisfaction, free from the shadows of the past.